and welcome. It's your boy, the Monster on the mic, Check Monster, and you are tuning in either via YouTube or one of the podcast channels to listen into the first ever episode of Generation Sports, brought to you by Generation Shock. If you aren't watching us, you better go check us out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe, that notification bell. And now that I'm coming through your airwaves, you better follow me, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, however you listen to your podcast. I'm very excited to be out here and start talking about sports and putting my focus down. Those of you who get to see me on the camera, you're going to notice a little bit something. I'm wearing out my Giants gear, my old Eli jersey, my Giants hat. So, first episode today, we're just going to break it down a little bit, and we're just going to go over the basics. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about me, my life, my involvement in sports, why I love it, why it's a passion for me, why I get so excited about it, and why I'm so freaking hyped. Sports are back. Yes. Ooh, boy, I can't wait to talk about some other stuff in some future episodes. But today we're really going to keep it around about my background. I'm not going to go too much more into anything. So let's start off. Young boy growing up, not very athletic, not very tall, white kid and all that good stuff. I started my first sport. My dad threw me in because he knew this chick and then her sons were playing it. So he put me into football. I refrained from using the word soccer because, my boy Marcos on Los Padres podcast, which I'm starting to listen to, really enjoyable, had asked me when he was a guest show on Gen Shock once, don't call it soccer, call it football. So out of respect to him, that was the first sport I ever played that was organized sports. And I had a good time. It wasn't bad, but I could tell right away. I wasn't into running like that, and I wasn't, enjoying that part of it. And I was never going to score goals. So I'm like, okay, what's the point of me playing this? So I tried to do some other things. So I went to a summer acting school, and I did a little bit of acting, and then I did a little bit of that. And I really loved it, enjoyed it. But then my dad's like, that's not for you. You were too young. You weren't heavy enough because there was weight limits for Pop Warner football and things like that. So he took me out of that. He threw me back into other sports. So the three major sports I grew up playing were football, baseball, basketball. Those were like it was literally fall was football, winter was basketball, spring was baseball. And that's where I spent my life, my youth, just pumping it out and going and going and going. And it was just a really good time. I enjoyed it. And, it was just a different world back then. When I played basketball, I was always, one of the last ones picked by coaches, which was fine. So I ended up being on like the best team because, nobody wanted me. So the coach that everybody knew was going to win was like, just take this short little white Jewish kid, right? Because, you guys got the best players, so you can just hide him in the back. So, I'd go out, I get a couple points a season, not a game, usually a season. And I'd just have some fun hanging out with people and everything. But it really wasn't anything more than that. I mean, I played through rec, but I didn't really play after that. There was really no sense. I knew I was never going to make a high school team or do anything with it. And, all my friends, whenever we played rec ball out in the yards and, at the sidewalks or the playgrounds or whatever you want to call it, they were always dunking and doing all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's fun. So, went into Little League. Little League was a lot like, it was the exact opposite. Like I never got picked in Little League to be on a winning team. My dad always helped out coaching. So, he started coaching with people who just had bad luck on baseball teams, man. T-ball. I didn't really play T-ball, but once I got to Little League and up, we never won. It was horrible. We lost all the time. Yeah, I went on this team that was called Texaco back in the day. And it was just horrible. We didn't win 2 games for 2 years or a single game for 2 years. We had the worst record ever. But, that was part of sports. That's what you did. You went out, you participated, you played, and you tried your hardest to win. But if you didn't, that's just the way it went. There was no all-stars. There was no, you got a participation trophy, but we all know it was bullshit. Nobody cared about it. We just had a good time. We played our hearts out, and we made some friends. I remember some of the best times of my life was going to the concession stand after the game, getting a free drink, having them order me a suicide. And for those of you who don't remember what a suicide drink was, this shit was the best. You used to have them do a little bit of every single beverage that they have on the little beverage machine, and that was the suicide. And I don't know what it was as a kid, man, that shit tasted amazing. I tried that shit a few years ago. I almost threw up. What was I thinking? Why would I mix all these different sodas together that have no point and no place going together? It was mind-blowing. But as a kid, you do stupid things and you enjoy it and you have fun and you love it. And then I went into Pop Warner football. Now, Pop Warner was completely different than any of the other sports in town, right? So basketball and Little League, the way that they were was you took the entire town and you made teams and you made a league. So you would be playing against your friends in competition, right? And that's just the way that it was. There's not you could do. So there were so many kids who wanted to play those sports. Pop Warner football was the exact opposite. If you were in that town, you were on the same team. So the kids that you used to hate and used to be your rivals over there in Little League were now your friends over in Pop Warner. And they're the ones who you were playing with and you were, you know, sweating it out with every day and stuff like that. So it was a whole different world out there in sports when you go from sport to sport. Now, what I loved about football, though, is that even though I wasn't the biggest or strongest guy, because it was a smaller group of people, we all lost together, we all won together. So it helped me build a little bit more camaraderie, a little bit more teamwork and things of that nature that I was able to carry on to the rest of my lives. And some of the lessons that I learned in those youth years, I mean, I still carry with them today. So it was just a whole different environment when you're on the Pop Warner football team because everybody is in it together. Then when we went to basketball, you started to split it up a little bit. And then by the time you got to Little League, just forget about it. You had like 8 teams, 15, 15 kids a team or something crazy like that. And you know what? In Little League, if you weren't good enough, you didn't play. You maybe got an inning or two in if you're lucky, but that was it. Pop Warner football, you're no good, you're riding the pine most of the time, right? Basketball, like I said, I scored like 2 to 4 points a season. They weren't playing my ass. I was not the one out there going to be making baskets. That's for damn sure. Excuse me as I take a drink. But yeah, so it's just one of those things that they started to instill in you at a young age. If you want to be something, if you want to do something with your life, you got to get out there. You got to work hard. You got to bust your ass because nobody's going to give you anything. I'll never forget when, I went in and I played in high school, right? And obviously, as I told you guys before, in high school, I got away from the basketball world. There was no reason for me to even try that. But I was in football in high school, and I played a little bit of baseball and did some weightlifting and stuff. But man, in football, in high school, I was always told every year, man, you're not a starter. You're too small. You're too this. You're too that. You can't make it. You can't do it. By all my coaches, I went out there every year, busting my ass. I worked harder than anybody else out there. I learned the playbook, and I made damn sure that I was a starter every single year. My junior year, I was told, hey, man, you're not starting. Somebody got hurt. Granted, they got hurt. I went in. They couldn't take me out. I made sure I played. So it's those work ethics and those things that we get from people challenging you and combating you that really just was a driving force, I feel like, in my life to make me, any kind of working ethic and working hard at anything I did. And I think that's where my passion for sports came from. And that's why I brought this up. I love sports because it molded me to the human being I am today. And I'm not overly successful. I'm not overly popular. I'm none of that stuff. But I get a passion. I get this enjoyment from watching it on a daily basis and seeing people compete and the camaraderie. I mean, you go into a bar or something and you might be 100 miles away from where you live or something, but you see somebody who is watching a game that you're interested in and boom, conversation starter, right? Oh, who's your team? This is my team. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Bam. Instant connection with people all over the world. Sports brings people together. And so I love that fact. And so I've always studied it. I went off to college. I played 2 years of ball in college. When once again, nobody said I was going to be able to. And I've been following sports my whole life. I'm not going to claim on this show to be an expert. I'm not going to claim to know more than any of you listeners out there, right? I'm not going to claim any of those things. The only thing I'm going to claim is this, is I'm going to give you a point of view that I stand behind, I believe, and I fully think is unique. Now, it might not always be, but I think I have a lot to say about sports. I've always wanted to do that. So it's an opportunity to come out here. If all of you who watch me on Generation Shock know that I'm not short of talking. I can find ways to talk. And going forward from after this show, I'll have a guest on every week and we're going to shoot the shit and they're going to, we're going to go at it. Some of them are going to maybe even be fans of teams I hate. And that's going to make it more interesting for me. But I'm going to have a lot of people on. I'm going to have a lot of different views and outtakes, and we're going to do a lot of different things with this show that I'm really, really excited about. Now, for this first show, like I say, it is going to be a little bit shorter probably, and we're not going to have as much going on with it because I just want to keep it focused a little bit about me, my background, what I believe in, and what I do. But there is one segment that I do want to bring into this show, and I do want to introduce real quick because it's something that's going to be really cool. So, here we go.
They wanna shake things up, but we got it under control, yeah. They thought I was all shook up, but I got it. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm on a roll.
All right, guys. This segment is called the Overreaction. And every week in this show, I am going to overreact to something that's going on out there in sports. And Lord knows I'll find something to overact about. I got like 15 things on my docket that I want to talk about, but I want to keep it similar to what the starting off topic is right now, that I don't want to jump over and into other things. So we're going to keep this about growing up, and it is generation sports. So let's talk about the generations. Told you a little bit before, when I'm growing up, you're either good enough to play or you don't. Nowadays, it seems like all these parents out there are pushing for this. Every kid participates. Every kid gets a trophy. Every kid makes the team. And all this bullshit that I just really don't agree with. I'm sorry. Like, you have to start teaching kids at a young age how to go out there and how to separate themselves from the pack. And by ensuring everybody has equal playing time, has an equal playing field, everybody gets a trophy, nobody's seen differently, is just bullshit. And I got somebody, who called me up earlier today, and he told me what he thought about it.
The greatest thing about sports is you play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sport.
Damn, you're right, Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. It's not about participation. It's not about going over there and have a little fun. Sure, should you have fun? But guess what? I'll tell you experience from losing. You know what's better than losing out there in a sports field? Winning. I had a lot more fun the days that I won than the days that I lost as a child growing up. And if I were to grow up in an era where they're all telling me it doesn't matter, it's okay, we're all winners out here and all that other bullshit, I may still be sitting on my dad's couch freaking, pining for a job or some shit. Everything that I had in my life it led from the competition that I got in sports, the drive to go out there and be better than the person next to me, the will, the desire, the work ethic, everything that I learned through sports because nobody else was out there teaching you that. Your parents aren't out there teaching you that as kids. So you got to have somewhere and something to do. So parents, you don't want to step up and do your job parenting, but you don't want the coaches to make your kid's life hard either. I mean, what the hell is going on? So I'm pushing a movement, and it's going to be #MakeKidsGreat again. And what I want is I know COVID's here, and there's not a whole lot of sports going on at the youth ages anymore, but I want there to be competition in youth sports again. I want us to push and drive our kids to play their best, to not allow them to quit, that if they start a team, they have to finish it out, and that they're going to work their ass off. And if they're unhappy because they're not good enough, that their ass is on the bench, then guess what? Get out there and work harder, or your ass deserves to be on that bench, okay? And I'm tired of all these people saying, you get a trophy, you get a trophy. Sports aren't supposed to be the Oprah Winfrey show, okay? Not everybody's going to get some shit, right? Only the people who go out there and they work harder or they're better, the cream rises to the top, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that in sports. And that's all I'm saying. Don't take offense, or actually do take offense. If you got a problem with it, go check out this video over at YouTube on #GenShock2020 page, okay? Because it's going to be airing on their playlist. Generation Sports will be airing on Generation Shock's playlist. And leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Am I right or am I wrong? Am I overreacting to this whole thing that just Pop Warner Sports and Little League Sports are just getting way too out of control, that these kids today are just told to go out and have fun and there is no competition? Or do you think there's still competition out there? I don't think there is, but I want to hear from you. So make sure you go down there and you let me know what you think. Guys, this is my first episode. It's a little bit shorter, but I'll probably be throwing out another one very soon this week. But I want to get out there. I want to introduce myself. I want to tell you all a little bit about me, and I want to tell you a little bit about what's on my mind today. So please make sure you subscribe, you hit the notification bells, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Peace.
Gotta climb to the top, but we're never gonna stop when the